So I'm beginning the second layer of this painting. The first one was just getting in the basic colors, leaning just towards the mid-tones, not going too light or too dark. And now I'm working through the sky, adding another layer and brightening the colors. I am adding some Viridian green in the mid-sky to just give it that cool and somewhat vibrant view, which we often see here in Greece, and how the sky reflects into the water and other areas where I'll be adding more Viridian around the rocks. The background, I think I want to define again when I get back into the last layer of this painting, and just kind of work it a little bit more. I'm not liking that they're both of the sections in the background, the hills are basically the same size, and I want to work with that. Coming into the sea and creating a sense of depth, I want to get a sense of the movement of the sea, even though the sea on this particular day was very quiet, just wavelets, no real crashing waves. And I like to have movement in the water, meaning that there are connecting factors. The light or blue or the white swirls and foam in the water somehow connect throughout the painting. And also with the shadow areas, I do the same kind of thing. And in the landscape as well. So I'm just working through how the sea exposes and covers up the reflections on the water. Bringing a stronger blue mixed with Viridian green, that I'm using Cobalt Blue and Ultramarine Blue in the foreground, and the colors dull a little bit as we move towards the back. I just do that for a sense of depth, to get a greater sense of depth. I think when you look out at the sea in real life, sometimes the colors of the sea in the background, depending on the clouds and the time of day and things like that, can be very vivid. But in this painting, it won't work. I want the focus more on the front, at the edge of this headland here that I'm working on right now. Working on the darks and getting rid of the roundish shape of that hill, even though it is very round in real life. I don't want it to look like an egg. So working with that, and one way to help with the shape is to get that background hill that connects with the front hill, the rounded shape, kind of close in value, so that the eye slips over it and it's not a stark difference. And dulling the back hill to get it more in the distance. I find it too close, and by doing that, I'm just adding a little bit more of the sky color into the greens, and it pushes it back right away. You always have to be looking for the same shapes, and to make sure we don't repeat the shapes and we keep the distances interesting and separate from other distances. And it's always a challenge when painting a scene like this one to do that. Things, shapes in the landscape can copy themselves easily, and oftentimes I miss it and have to go back and reassess and re-establish certain shapes. So I do a lot of that while I'm painting. As you can see, it's just working and pushing and pulling and trying to get the essence of that whole headland, the back one, kind of pushing back and moving towards the back. You can see I'm going to change the shape and flatten it out a little bit more to create more distance and to give it the sense of that headland pointing towards the back hills. And here in the front, you know, working with the different shapes again, just adjusting. You know, there's so many different things to do. Adjusting the shadows, moving towards sharper rocks, getting a sense of the water against the rocks, the sense of the free flow of the water against the hardness of the landscape. So many different things, and you have to stand back and look from a distance at your work, and you can pretty quickly see the things that are sticking out and too prominent that need to be pushed back, like that corner I just painted, the rocks coming in on the lower right side. If it's too detailed and too high contrast, it's going to pull the eye out of the painting. And so I'm keeping that tone down. Really want to focus on the water splashing up against the rocks at the tip of the headland on the left side of the painting. And wanting to get just that sense of the rocks. They're cragged and crooked and twisted, and it would be a lot easier if they were just plain big boulders, you know, big boxes, big box rocks to paint. But here in this country, it's more triangular. I think it's like the olive trees that they don't just go upwards. The trunks twist around and bend and take up space. And the same with the rocks also, because they keep getting broken away and torn down through all the years of the sea coming up against them. And much of the rock here in this part of Greece is limestone, so it does also easily come apart and becomes jagged. But with the water especially, there's this triangular, it just makes these triangular shapes, or very odd jutted rocks. And I need to capture that without going overboard. You have to remember that when you're painting in the background, rather than doing detailed work, you want to keep things more general. So your squinting really helps with that. And squinting back at the rocks in the back headland and the landscape back there. In real life, it's all trees. So what I'm doing is raising the value just a little bit, and to get a sense of maybe there's some back fields or just movement, so it's not all a patch of green from the brush, which is what it actually is. And keeping things simple, no details in the midground and background, because that will draw your eye and pull you forward, and it will make it look like it is in the foreground the more details you have. So the values become less distinct, they become closer together, and the colors are more grayed down and muted as we are moving back. The first color to drop away are the warm yellows and the reds. Yellow, orange, and red will drop away the farther back you go, and the farther back you go into atmospheric perspective, the bluer and more purpley the colors get. So right now there's a very sharp distinction between that second headland and the one in front. I would take care of that later on in the painting, bring them closer together, but also keeping that sense of atmospheric perspective that the second headland is indeed farther back and pushing towards the background. I'm using my Mediterranean palette. You can see the video on that. I'll put it up. I'll put it in the link below. But on this palette, I have also added the Viridian Green, and I just went to the art store in the city and bought a beautiful raw Sienna, which the Mussini brand. I had the raw Sienna in Windsor and Newton, but I didn't like it. But this one, I think, is because it's warmer. It has a more a warmer, orangier sense to it. I really love it, and so I added that as well onto the palette. There's those two swirly rock formations. I'm going to fix. I need to fix those. I tackled some of it towards the end of this painting here to try and fix that. It looks like, I don't know, one looks like a question mark in the background, the one on the higher hill, and the one on the one coming towards the tip of the headland. You know, just, I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm going to need to fix that. Now, I want to make sure that I get a sense, a three-dimensional sense, that these are big boulders, big rocks that has a back on the other side. Things are happening on that side that we can't see, but I want to get a sense of the three-dimensionality of these headlands. I love painting these headlands because it's an interesting composition, the way that they are set up, and I love the way they change. In fact, the day that I took this video, when I started this painting, I always do a video of the area so that I can watch it when I'm in the studio. And the sea was very calm, and the reflections from the hills were coming out onto the sea, and it was just such a beautiful, calm day. And the very next day, we had southern winds, and the waves were just crashing against the rocks and splashing up, and it was really beautiful. And I actually thought that maybe I would come in and do that on this painting, but I stuck to my guns. When you start a project, it's always good to stick with the plan until the very end. Some things you can change, but the general idea, the general inspiration, the first inspiration that you got and started the painting, stick with it until the very end. And then if you want to paint the same scene with crashing waves, go ahead and do it. It's a whole different concept. But when you begin a painting and you've started with the underpainting and the drawings and everything getting all set up, and you lay out your palette and you've already put the energy in on a certain idea, stick with that idea until the end. You'll learn more that way. The paintings will turn out better, and you will have a fuller sense of completion, whether the painting is a success or not. That's not the point. We don't really care about that in the end. Of course, we want it to be a good painting, but they won't all be. In fact, many of the paintings will be failures, flops, and just used for reference to look back on and learn the things that you need to learn as an artist. So I want to thank you for following along this far on this painting, and let's see what happens in the next stages. Hopefully just another time over, maybe two, depending on if I run into any difficulties or discover something that I didn't see before that I need to work through. We'll see. I will film it as well and do a similar kind of talk over, a voiceover on the painting process, and let you know what I'm doing, if I'm changing any colors, if I'm changing any thoughts, having any aha moments. Whatever comes to mind, I'm sharing with you freely. I hope you enjoy these videos. Let me know in the comments below if there's something that you'd like to see that I can help you with, and I will happily create a video for you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Keep painting. Thanks for joining me on this painting journey. I'll go in and film the second, and hopefully finishing. Thanks for joining me. Glad you were here. I never know how to finish these. So I'll just end it